Hey everyone, Steve Pakradooni here, your LD4 State Senate candidate with another edition of Sundays with Steve. Yep, another week done. Another week on the campaign trail. Very hot week on the campaign trail. It is the middle end of August, so it's going to get hot, that's for sure. And also a very emotional week with the loss of 13 of our service members and so many others injured, some really bad, and all the loss of civilian lives, which is unfolding in Afghanistan due to incompetence from President Biden and basically the Democrat Party. My last video we talked about it. I'm going to mention it briefly, but please check out my last video. It's pretty short, but just saying that they cannot lead. The progressive policies are failures, complete failures, when you want to deal with emotion and not facts, and without have strong leadership. And just basically Biden's plan is now, well, we're going to trust the Taliban to help us get American citizens out of Afghanistan. That's just it's unimaginable to think that we're going to trust terrorists now. The complete failure of the Biden administration is apparent here. Don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's worse, Biden or Harris, but we have problems. And our not one local representative, politician, has said anything negative, on the Democrat side, that has said anything negative against President Biden. So it just goes to show you how party agenda they are driven. Murphy has done nothing but praise President Biden, and as we can see, who's been a complete failure on every level. So check out my last video. We'll go more into that. As far as the campaign trail, basically the same thing. Just getting our word out, our literature, meeting people, talking to people. We went to a couple events to help some local down ballot candidates in different towns that we have here in LD4. And they're hardworking people. And basically what everyone that I've spoken to or met is just regular people who have become very, very concerned about where our government is going. And one of the biggest problems that we face today is the mask mandates in school, what we're doing to our children. That's always the number one question I'm getting when I go to these events. How do I feel about masking of our children? And I've said it before, it is child abuse. It's incorrect to single out our children, who the virus really does not affect badly. There's very, very limited child deaths with the virus, and one death is too many. We talked about this before, but we know it affects seniors and elders, but somehow we're targeting our children. So I brought a prop with me. It's the first time I'm doing this on the video, but I came home from work, and there was this box of masks on the kitchen table, and I asked my wife what they were about, and she says, well, our son has to go back to high school, and he needs to wear a mask. So I figured I'd get him some disposable ones, kind of match his uniform color. And so he wouldn't have to wear the same one every day, and he could change out during the day because, again, with August, it's hot. They start school next week. It's still going to be hot because that's how it works the first couple of weeks of September. We still have 80 and 90 degree days, and it's going to be uncomfortable. So I got him some disposable ones. So I figured I'd check them out. Well, the front of the box is, they're made in Vietnam, so I guess this is Vietnamese, so I couldn't read it. I flipped over to the other side of the box, which is this side of the box here. Some pretty simple things. It just tells us about that they're disposable, the color. It says for dust and air pollution, or it says ask for dust and air pollution. So I guess the translation from Vietnamese to English was a little bit interesting. And then 100% waterproof, which is not. I proved that wrong. I ran it under the faucet, and the water came right through it. So it's not 100% waterproof. So the interesting part is this side. Hopefully you can see that correctly. So this side says, it clearly tells you what this mask is used for. It is used for sunlight, blocking sunlight, pollen, dust, and pollution. Now that makes sense to me. We can, sunlight, if you cover anything, the sunlight doesn't get through it, and it protects your lips and I guess your nose and the rest of your face from getting sunburn. That makes sense to me. Okay, I get it. Pollen, we can see pollen. It's on your cars, usually in the springtime. That green stuff is pollen. So pollen is a pretty big, molecule, I'll say. Okay, so we could block that. Well, that makes sense to me. It won't get through the mask. Dust, we can see dust. We know that's rather large too. I know there's smaller ones that we can't see. You need a microscope, but it's nowhere as near as small as the, a virus or organism, shall we say. And then pollution. Blocks pollution. Yeah, it makes sense. So if you're in an area where you don't want to breathe in certain chemicals or there's something in the air, you always see in my industry when we do brake work, we wear a mask because some of the particles that come off of the brake shoes or brake pads aren't so great to be in your lungs. So we put a mask on real quick to block those large particles. Doesn't say anywhere on the box it stops COVID-19, viruses, flus, anything that we're making our children wear these masks for. It really gets better on this side. So I'll hold that up for you. The important thing on the bottom of this, and I'll read it now, right on the side of the box, it says for non-medical use. Non-medical use. So if we're making our children wear a mask, making them wear these masks to prevent them from getting a medical condition, why would we do that and say, okay, you're going to wear a mask that's acceptable to the governor, a face covering, as he says, it says for non-medical use. So clearly we're doing it wrong. If the mask isn't, if a doctor can't wear this mask to protect himself and or the patients or other people he's seeing in a medical setting, or a hospital setting or a doctor's office, whatever you want to say, then why would these be acceptable? No one's checking, no one's asking from the school, hey, what mask is your son going to be wearing or daughter going to be wearing in school? They just want a face covering. I say face covering. So listen, I'm an auto mechanic, but I have some common sense and, I believe in science. So I'm going to ask this question. How could this mask that my son's now going to wear to school every day work just as well as the mask that, say, the student sitting next to him is wearing? Maybe that student's wearing a homemade mask made out of an old t-shirt. Or someone else that bought a mask in the dollar store. Someone else that's wearing a mask that they ordered online. How can this work correctly in stopping a virus that clearly doesn't say anywhere on the box helps stop the spread of the coronavirus or the flu or a cold or anything? It's not for a medical use. This is to protect yourself from like if you're, sanding wood and you don't want the dust to get into your lungs, but that kind of makes sense to me. So it has no medical value whatsoever. But we're forcing our children to wear these in school, or the governor is forcing. And our elected officials are not pushing back, especially the ones in LD4. No questions asked. Okay, Governor, you say we have to put our face mask on our children, and there's no questions asked. And no guidance of what we should be wearing. So the mask is right here. This is what I was sending my son to school with. If you hold it up to I can actually see myself through it. I'm looking at the camera. I'm going to put it in front of my eyes. I can actually see the camera. There's holes in it. There's actually holes in it in the top of it. And like I said, it's not waterproof. I put water on one of them and then, held it on there for a second or two and then dripped out of the bottom. And then you hold it up to the light, not a lot of sunlight here, and you can see right through it. I can see this red umbrella that's above me. I can see the house behind me. I can see the patios in front of me. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Also, what happens if they don't wear this correctly? What happens if the coronavirus, so it stops the coronavirus. If it gets on the front of it and they take it off incorrectly with their hands, so that now the coronavirus is on their hands and everything they touch then, it can't work. And Dr. Fauci said it himself in early on, March of 2020, that the masks don't work. It doesn't provide the correct protection. If it makes you feel better, you can wear it. Well, that goes back to my original statement about progressive policies and Democrats' leadership. This makes them feel better. I said it before too. This is the virtue signal for them. It's the red MAGA hat for the left. Is the mask to say, "Ooh, I care more about everyone else than myself. I'm going to put this on." There's no value to these. No value. Now there are correct masks that do have value. N95 I heard works correctly. When you see doctors in The hospitals, they have certain masks on, they have shields on, they have the whole face gear on. Sure, that would stop the spread of coronavirus. And instantly when they leave a room, or maybe they don't even leave the room if with someone that they know that has coronavirus, they put the pose of it correctly and won't go and talk to another patient without putting all that stuff new on again. Well, that's just not feasible in daily life. We can't do that. So making us wear face masks or disposable masks or homemade masks, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So we're giving people the false sense of security. We're causing so many social and mental issues with our children while we're not protecting the most vulnerable. Because also what I get is I get all the senior citizens come into my business and they're wearing this some type of mask, whatever it is, and they get closer and closer and closer to me because they feel that I can't hear them speak because they have a mask in front of their face, and I can't. And so I ask them politely, take a few steps back, take your mask off. I'll stand out in the shop. You can stand in the office and we'll talk. Or you can write me a note of what you want. Or better yet, if you just stay home and call me, and that would have been worked out. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen a whole lot. So I've rambled on too long. I'm just going to say again that the Democrats can't lead. Their policies don't work. They're not helping anyone. And forcing our children to wear masks in school is child abuse. So hopefully next week I'll have a more upbeat Sunday with Steve, but just not feeling this week with what we see transpiring. So everyone have a better week. Let's pray for a better week. And I'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much.